Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music, where today I shall be speaking once again, for he has been here before.
I have indeed.
To Ashton Nyte.
That's me. How are you doing, Graham?
I'm fine, thank you. And his cat.
And my cat, Willow. Look, she's moving and everything. She heard you. There she goes.
There you go. Willow may take part in this interview. We don't know yet. It's up to her, not Ashton, because she is a cat, and cats decide their own fate.
She's the boss.
Absolutely. We'll be back after this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Ashton, always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.
How have you been since we last spoke?
I've not slept.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a common affliction that happens to modern man, but in particular to musicians, quite often commonly associated with neurodivergence as well. So, yeah, what can we say? It's just going to happen.
Yeah, it's the no sleep hopefully has been beneficial to those who enjoy what I do, and maybe even to those who just refuse to enjoy what I do. Maybe they'll find some benefit in it too. So there's been multiple music videos and a new Awakening record and a whole big tour that's booked that will take us all over the world, and all of that requires an obscene amount of work, and that's what Willow's primary job in life is, to keep me motivated, and in a sort of co-producer sort of designation, you could say.
Okay, let's tackle each of those in almost reverse order then, because as anyone that's kind of kept up with the news in the last year or so, and certainly listened to various musicians ranting about it on the internet and on radio stations, particularly people like Kate Nash, who's been very vocal about it. These days, going on tour is incredibly difficult for musicians because it costs an arm and a leg, literally.
Yeah.
Doing it right so that you don't end up in huge amounts of debt is quite difficult, is it not?
Yes, it's really just how much debt you're comfortable with. It's not whether there's going to be debt. It's
it's the hugeness of that debt.
Yeah, and I think it's I have seen what Kate Nash has been up to, and it's absolutely valid and reassuring when people who've had the kind of success she's had, are calling it out and bringing attention to it, because I think there's always maybe hot on the heels of the digital experience of music, what tends to happen is the devaluation of music, where you're paying $10 or whatever it is to listen to all the music in the world. That's if you even subscribe to one of the platforms. And I think that possibly extends to people assuming that concerts should be basically free or next to nothing or whatever. And the reality is we still need to fly to the place we're playing, to the country or the continent or whatever, and drive and stay in hotels and feed ourselves and all of that. And generally speaking, a tour is not going to even cover any of that, let alone paying the band and everybody else that's involved. So it tends to be a combination labor of love and then part of this kind of eternal investment in the dream, where one day this magical time will arrive when 500,000 people are going to show up to your show and you can actually pay the band what you owe them for the last 20 years, or pay your rent.
Yeah.
Or feed your cat, which is very important in this
incredibly
kind of
important
present time.
Yeah.
And
do you think part of the problem is that there seems to be kind of almost two disparate voices there? Because on the one hand, what we're hearing is that, you know, for artists of a certain ilk, or right, that they can demand huge ticket fees,
Sure.
and that certain people would be saying, well, actually they're making too much money because right,
Yeah.
you know, because they're charging us £500
Sure.
to get into Wembley Stadium, and then another 50 quid to go to the toilet.
Yes.
You know,
$1,000 for a beer, and you know.
that's right. All
So
of
on.
all of that. And if you buy the tour T-shirt, you've taken out a second mortgage.
Yeah.
So
That's the other extreme, right?
there's that,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And then there's the rest of us.
and then there's the rest of you, and
Yeah.
and then, you know, but because Joe Public, who doesn't know any better, and there are other versions of Joe available, because he's hearing, like, on the one hand, people going, well, these people are making too much money. They don't necessarily then understand that it's a very, very fine line in the middle
Yeah.
between really, really losing lots of money and then making stupid lots of money.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, we can't really seem to find any middle ground.
Right. Yeah, and you know, I've been touring and performing and releasing music for, believe it or not, for 30 years at this point. This is the 30-year anniversary of the Awakening, and I owe all of our success to the skin products that I use. And never going into the sun.
It's available on the website.
It is, you know. So got to do something to survive, right? That I think the benefit of that is obviously trying to make better decisions, you know, than maybe someone with a little less experience, or someone who, people who get caught up with labels who promise them all sorts of things and then end up paying off the label and everybody else for the rest of your life just for that one tour that you got to experience.
Yeah.
And so the list goes on. So I mean, it is really, I try to do what I would really like to do and what I think an audience would enjoy, but at the same time, you know, keeping it to the point where I could hopefully pay the tour off in a few months and not be in debt for the rest of my life. So it is a balance, and I think experience helps, but it doesn't mean that there's a formula and everyone's always going to show up. I mean, God forbid a tornado or heavy rain or whatever, another band with in the same genre decides to book a night at the same, you know, in the same town. It's all these things that you can't control, factor into it. So we're all essentially we're all seeking out the kind of the super fan, that the fan that's going to be with you for the long haul, and those are the ones that tend to stick it out and come and see you when it's raining, or when, you know, David Bowie's playing next door and they're still going to choose you, you know. That kind of thing. So, and that's something that I have no end of gratitude for, because it's one of the things that I'm just blessed with, I guess, for doing it for so long and hopefully making good art in the process. And yeah, so there's no real words of wisdom other than sort of be a good human and try to treat people well and try to make good art, and don't overextend yourself when you go touring, because you might not bounce back, you know.
Yeah, there's such a disparity in terms of cost of tickets. I mean, I see bands, especially early on in their career, I mean, putting out, you know, gigs for like £10-15, and there'll be them plus maybe two other support bands, local bands or whatever, and you think, well, you can just do the maths. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm guessing that most people of a certain size will get to around sort of somewhere between the sort of £20 to £40 mark for a ticket. What's just so that people know, what's the kind of breakdown of that? How much would an artist actually get out of that?
It honestly depends on the deal. You know, generally speaking, it can range from, I mean, we're doing some shows where we're eating all the costs. So we're essentially I have my own record label, so it's kind of a double whammy. So Intervention Arts would essentially be putting on the show, funding everything, so paying for the venue, for all
Right.
the staff, for absolutely. So then, of course, we take 100% of whatever it is that we end up earning, if we earn anything. But it's unlikely that we're going to come out ahead. So that's one model. That's sort of the one extreme. The other extreme is your basic door deal, where you're at the mercy of the venue and or promoter, often sometimes the same person or people. And then it's usually a percentage of whatever it is that they're taking at the door. And then if they've decided to pay a support band or another support band or a DJ or ads in the paper or whatever it is, they can kind of, depending on what agreement you've signed, they can kind of load it up to where they don't pay you anything at the end of the night. Or they could be good humans and literally give you a portion of the proceeds as you agree to. And you just have to figure out whether that's actually beneficial. And generally, there's a sweet spot where if I'm going to fly somewhere, there needs to be upwards of 3 or 5 shows in that country within driving distance to make sense. I can't fly the whole band to Spain and play one show in Madrid and then fly home, because they're not going to pay me.
Much as you'd love to.
Much as I'd love to. I'm not picking on Madrid, just using it as an example. We've played Madrid before and it's wonderful, but it's we can't just come to your country and play one show. We're not multi-millionaires. We're just regular people trying to share what we do with the rest of the world, And so the tours we've booked now, it's a mixed bag. There are some festivals in there where they pay you a flat fee and you have your slot and you enjoy the benefit of playing in front of a lot more people, many more people, because there's all sorts of bands and things going on. And then there's shows where it's just us, and then it's shows where it's us, and we've got a few support acts, generally friends. I'm going in with my eyes open, It's, as I said, don't want to pay it off for the rest of my life, but a few months most likely.
Yeah. I think it's important that musicians continue to talk about this publicly and actually really kind of break it down, because I think there are just so many sort of mythologies about this. It's like people think, because sometimes when you go to a gig at certain venues, that the cost of the bar is overinflated and whatever as well. They think, some of that must be going back.
Yeah, well, there's a third model I forgot to mention, which is your regular. I mean, it's not just festivals that pay a guarantee. Venues and promoters will also pay a guarantee of whatever, hopefully in the thousands of pounds or euro or whatever. But again, they've worked it backwards in terms of what they think they can make and what they think the bar can make and all of that. So unless we're hosting the entire thing ourselves, things like the bar and all that goes to the venue. I mean, we're not seeing a penny of that, and some festivals will take a percentage of your merchandise sales. Some venues will take a percentage. So you can't even go in and think, well, we're only getting paid $50, but we'll make it back on selling records.
We'll sell 10 T-shirts tonight. Yeah,
and it's like, well, I guess we're all sharing that room at the the $25 motel. All 6 of us. And that's
gets cozy.
The band that sleeps together. Whatever. It's it gets real very quickly. So, which brings me to my point, which is work with people you really like, because there's a lot of stress and strain once you jump in that van and off you go. So
that kind of leads us nicely to talking about the album, etc. Because and how different is that these days from when you first started? Because obviously that was the other element in this, was that once upon a time, long time ago, if you toured, you sold physical copies, and now there is a appetite for physical copy again, which is great. And I am seeing that. I'm seeing that when people go to shows, they will, stand in line and get their physical copy, which is really good. But generally, whereas once upon a time, that's what you had to do to get the music, and therefore, band and artists could go on tour, and then they could recoup some of that by getting decent sales of physical product. Nowadays, it's probably like that in terms of some people are going to buy it, some people are just going to stream it. There you go.
Yeah, I think fortunately well, I'll first say it varies from culture to culture, from country to country, in terms of how people like to appreciate and support music, and or any form of art for that matter. I think, and that comes down to even the format. You know, you'll find that in the US in general, CD's pretty much dead, whereas in parts of Europe it's alive and kicking, and in other parts of Europe it's dead as well. You know, and that's vinyl. You've got the sort of collectible sort of angle with that. I don't know how many people are actually listening to those records, but I think it's I think they're lovely, and I listen to them.
Get that dust off.
Yeah. You know, I love the format, and I have an extensive vinyl collection myself, and we put a lot of kind of energy into making those really beautiful and special, knowing that in many instances they are just collectibles. They are just it's another way the audience or the fans can actually support you, because every bit helps. Whether you're buying a T-shirt or a beer coaster or a thong with our logo on it, which is something I still need to introduce.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Awakening thongs. Yeah, it's give me a minute, I'll come up with a great tagline.
It'll be an album that's like songs from the songs from the Big Chair, like Tears for Fears, but it'd be thongs from the Big Chair.
Exactly. Thongs from the Big Chair. Yeah. Yes. The thong remains the same, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to be pretty creative with all of that, and with the Awakening, we haven't toured as the full band in 9 years. It's been, the last full tour we did was with The Mission, and we played the UK and then all over Europe. And then, of course, I toured solo with Wayne Hussey, and that was the last big tour I did. And then, of course, COVID happened, and that put the whole world in turmoil for 2 or 3 years at least. And last year, I kind of dipped my toe back in the water doing a solo tour. Even though we just put the Awakening record out, I kind of wanted to see whether this was still something people wanted to come and see. And it went really well. And you're talking about people queuing up to get their records signed and whatever. I mean, generally speaking, every show I played, I signed for longer than I played for. It was, and I'd play for an hour and a half. So it was pretty impressive. And these are not massive audiences. It's between sort of 150 to 150 people, depending on the little.
So
venue.
that's most people bought something.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. That really is a beautiful experience that people want to take a little something home with them. To kind of celebrate that. Having said that, if you're going to tour every year, you can't keep selling the same stuff or keep expecting people to buy new versions of the same thing. So, I work a lot. I release a lot, which is my original answers, having not slept in a while, because we also have a lot of anniversary editions and special editions and deluxe versions coming out. And I'm the sucker who's mixing and remixing and producing and making the videos and doing it all really in the background. So no sleep, but lots of new
Till
things
Brooklyn.
for people to buy. So there's that.
That's great. It is good. I mean, it's so talk to me about not having any sleep. Then let's go back to the beginning. How do you cope with that? How do you keep the energy going when, I mean, you must have days when you go, oh really?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, when all's going well, I get energy from the creative process, even if I'm revisiting something that I did 20 years ago for an anniversary, reissue or whatever. If it was something I enjoyed making, which is generally the case for me, I enjoy doing what I do, I kind of rekindle that excitement for that particular thing. I mean, I may not have listened to something I did 20 years ago in many, many years. I do listen to other music, not just my own, So there's that, and there's an excitement, and I think I gain energy from that, like I would gain energy from a performance. So it's this balancing act, because performing is physically draining, it's tiring, but you're also getting the energy from the audience and from the band, and this whole magical thing that happens. And for me, whether it's writing or mixing or remixing or producing, there's a lot of that similar energy and a similar balance where it's, if I've got to sit and EQ the same kick drum for like 6 hours, then yes, it's draining my living soul and I don't want to do it. But if that's just like, okay, that sounds great and let's move on, and you start painting the picture, the sonic picture and the thematic picture and all of that, I gain energy from it, and you have to drag me away from the studio, you know. So that's the thing. And so is Mississippi Mud, my favorite brand of coffee. That's also a thing that gives me a lot of energy.
I love that. I love that.
That and clean living. I think that, you know, I'm not knocking anybody's choices, but, you know, drugs and hard drinking is not really conducive to a productive, positive energy and a productive lifestyle. You know,
Yeah.
Kids who think you're going to go.
Do you
go
get
on the
out
road
and run or something?
Oh yeah, I go to the gym almost every day. I do yoga multiple times a week. It's can't you tell? You know, I think that it's that thing. It's, you know, we all grew up thinking that rock stars were these perpetually debauched, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all of that. And I think, you know, you probably got maybe the energy to do that for the first 5 years or so, but, you know, maybe 10 if you kind of Superhuman or Keith Richards, which is probably the same thing. But for most of us, you know, you got to clean up. If you didn't start clean, then you need to get clean pretty damn soon if you're going to do something productive with it all, and take it where it could possibly go, and
probably even more so if you're a singer.
Definitely. I mean, I can't imagine smoking cigarettes even and trying to sing. I mean, I was saying to you a moment ago, I've been ill so many times just from, I think, probably the sheer exhaustion, burning the candle on 12 sides and all of that. If you're going to keep weakening your system with other stuff, I think you're kind of dead in the water, really.
Yeah. And then you're going to go and stand in front of a coughing, sniffling group of people night after night.
That's it. You know, I my doctors look after me and make sure that I've got the right medication for just in case for these tours. And generally speaking, 2 or 3 weeks in, inevitably, you've got some kind of cold or flu coming on because, like, as you said, you're shaking hands and you're hugging people and signing things, and you're standing in front of them, and you're breathing deeply as you're singing, and it's you're gonna get sick. I mean, it's you know, you're tired and whatever. But
a musician's life is just about trying to balance and stop.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
It's
really
like
is. Right there. That's like the classic example. You got adrenaline that's doing all of this for you, but you've got all of this other stuff fighting against you, and you're just trying to do it. Which is why, you know, you got to keep the clean living going, because that's just another that's kind of, you're doing it to yourself, you know.
I was thinking when you were talking about the kick drum thing, I was immediately thinking of a little story that I have about when I used to live in a flat when I first moved to the southwest, and the guy below me used to play this trashy music every single night and keep me awake until stupid hours. So I finally got him back. I had a pretty powerful. I used to have a 10K rig,
Nice.
which I used to take to London. We ran a little nightclub in London. I used to take this 10K rig up to London of a weekend.
Yeah.
So I hauled the whole thing up the stairs and put it in the room, and I played Physical by Revolting Cocks, which you probably you may well know.
Oh yeah.
Which just has that yeah sound all the way through. It doesn't really change much from that.
Yeah.
And he gave in.
Yeah.
So I thought, so I got that. But I was thinking, whilst I was thinking about that like all people, when you're immersed in one particular type of music and you're one particular type of sound, is there, and this is where you can be honest, right? Is there ever something we would not expect Ashton Nyte to listen to that you go off and listen to from time to time?
Oh yeah. And I mean, you say this is where I can be honest. I'm always honest, I promise.
Okay.
But I think my precursor is that it depends on how well you know me. I think if you've maybe followed for a while and read interviews and whatever, I think maybe the shock would have kicked in
Then,
earlier. That
not now.
yeah, not no. But for those who don't know, yes, I have a very very broad taste in music, and generally don't listen to a whole lot of music that sounds like the music I make. I, the more obvious things are, I mentioned David Bowie, and I'm a huge Kate Bush fan. So the more obvious things is all the classic goth bands and new wave and electro and all of that stuff.
And more emotive stuff.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of folk music, and I'm a big fan, so anything from Nick Drake to Elliott Smith to Iron and Wine, more current artists, to going back to Johnny Cash's blues and country and all of that, but in the old folk music of his era. I love jazz, like my Nina Simone's a favorite, and just a phenomenal voice and performer and everything. I mean, it's just, never forget hearing her play, hearing those records for the first time and thinking this was done live. That's how they recorded then. She just sat at the piano playing this insane piano and singing in this pitch perfect, beautiful voice. And those are the moments of truth when you realize there's so much more out there, and there's people that just are unattainable for someone like me, and then of course there's people like Neil Diamond. I think that would be a surprise for people. I think Neil Diamond is an incredible songwriter, and it's
not just Sweet Caroline.
No. I mean, he's if you look at he went kind of schmaltzy in the mid 70s, and kind of lost me there personally. But if you look at his 60s songs, I mean, they're brilliant songs. I mean, people don't realize how many songs he wrote that have been covered by others. It's not as many as Dylan, but I mean a significant number of songs. And I mean, my household became annoyed with me with how often I would put on Stones by Neil Diamond. So it's
right, yeah.
That's I'm a deep cuts guy, not just the hits. And then of course the pop music of the 80s, bands like In Excess. I just absolutely love In Excess, and a few people realized that I did a sound-alike for In Excess for a South African television ad, and I can actually sound almost, I won't say identical, but I can sound a lot like Michael Hutchence. And now that's not something you would assume.
Can I ask you what song?
Never Tear Us Apart.
Oh, I was going to say.
Don't ask me. It's
what I know is true.
Beautiful song. And a beautiful man.
It's that sax solo in the middle of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the things, and it's Michael's long, luscious locks that he had at the time. I was so very envious.
Did you see them live?
No, never had a chance to see them live.
I did. I got to see them live. Yeah.
When?
I got to see. Oh my word! What year? I can't tell you the year. They were supporting U2.
Okay, that's quite a comment. I love you. I mean, I love U2 up until a certain era, but yes, I love U2 as well.
Well, it was U2. It would have been U2 sort of just after Joshua Tree period. So still doing a lot of Joshua Tree. Mm-hmm. In Excess supporting, very, very diverse setup actually, and another band in there as well who were totally underrated, who should have been bigger. Jellyfish. I don't know whether you remember Jellyfish with the guy that played the drums. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were great. And Jesus Jones as well on the same bill. Fantastic.
Jesus. Yeah, I remember them. They were very popular in South Africa with that first record. Or was it a second record? What is the one? The big one with
Doubt.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was and we had EMF, they came out at the same time in a similar sort of vein.
EMF.
They kind of had the one hit really, but the unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like all
International of Bright Young Thing was Jesus Jones and all of that. Yeah. And then they went dark for the follow-up album. I think the follow-up album was called Perverse or something like that, and probably a bit like when Pulp did their most popular album, and then the next album out was really dark, and everyone went, "Oh,
this is hardcore." Was that one?
This is hardcore, yeah. And everyone goes, "Hello."
Well, that's another genre of music that I absolutely love. Is I'm not a genre, but an era I would say is Pulp and Suede were my favorite. Well, Suede and Pulp in that order are my favorites from that kind of era of British rock music. You know, I'm not really a huge fan of the Blue Oasis thing, but
No,
but
but you used to
definitely
throw some like Metal Mickey type. Yeah.
Suede. I mean, Dogman Star specifically is one of my
That album
absolute
is,
favorite albums of all time. So good, so good. And
and
never got
doesn't
to.
feel like it's from that time
Oh
either, does
no,
it?
I mean, there's elements of Scott Walker in there, you know, and who does that? You know, who has a hit album where you kind of borrowing from Morrissey and Bowie on your debut, and everyone's saying that, right?
Yeah.
And then your follow up, you start channeling one of David's influences, ultimately Scott Walker, but
Yeah.
in this really interesting, beautiful Baroque way. I mean, it's just like, yeah, it was.
But like,
I play
but
that.
shrouded in androgynous kind
Oh
of.
yeah,
Yeah,
all that,
it's
all that
fantastic.
goodness. It's so good. I will have to listen to it immediately once we start.
Yeah, I
stop
think we might have
chatting
to.
here. Yeah,
We're going to have a listening party straight after
can.
this week's. There we
we
go.
can, and they keep doing new versions, and I'm just like, bring it on. Let me hear whatever other B-side you've dug up. I'm good. I'll just keep buying new versions of the same thing. I love it that much. Yeah, it's so good.
There you go. You haven't really surprised me, but
Okay,
it's.
should I try a
think
bit harder?
well, if you're going to say Mr. Blobby, you might. But
No, I love Dolly Parton. Is that a surprise? No, not really. Shouldn't be a surprise because she's awesome.
it shouldn't. Again, songwriting, isn't it?
Absolutely, these are all great songwriters. I mean, it's. I mean, obviously, people like Leonard Cohen and Nick Cave and all, in that. Yes, like no kidding. I love all of them. I'm trying to surprise you now. You've challenged me.
There you go. What about you mentioned jazz? Have you managed to get into any more sort of modern jazz? Is there anyone you're following there?
Not really, to be honest. There's a style of recording and a style of performance that just kind of strikes a chord with me, and it tends to be the 50s and 60s jazz recordings. I mean, it's nothing against the modern people. It's but I like a very specific sound and feel. So, you know, I'm probably always going to rather go.
You want
back
it to sound good when the needle hits.
Yeah, and it's got to have that. I can almost see the studio set up, and there's like 2, maybe 3 microphones in the entire thing, and it's live. And you know, I don't like the very clean, polished jazz sound. I just, you know, it's just a taste thing. I'm sure the musicians are great, you know, but
I remember getting my first Charlie Parker album with, you know, songs like Salt Peanuts on it, and there's so you can actually hear all the chattering in the room.
yeah.
You know, I love all that.
Oh yeah, Miles Davis.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's, and then of course all the soul greats. You know, you've got Otis Redding, and I every now and then I'll many more people. I was getting to the next person, but I went through a Tina Turner kick the other day where I had to listen to, what's the big one, the River Deep Mountain.
yeah.
With I had to every morning I woke up, I had to hear that song for like 2 weeks or something. And then I'll go somewhere else like Moody Blues or something, and then every day I'm listening to Tuesday
Or like
afternoon.
Curtis Mayfield or Isaac Hayes or
Isaac, yeah, to go back to the soul people, yeah, Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield and Otis and what's going on? What's his name?
Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye, of course. It's early in the morning for me. You must excuse me.
fine.
Marvin Gaye, yeah, there's so much, and it's part of it is growing up with a dad that was obsessed with music. He wasn't a musician, but he was the next. He's in the same vein, really. He was as obsessed as most musicians should be, in my opinion, because we can take a little bit of something from everything, and it makes it that much more interesting for ourselves and for people who are experiencing our work, you know. So I started with Elvis and seeing the comeback special, the rerun of the comeback special, and he said, "You're looking for trouble?" And I said, yes, you know.
Raise your hand,
You
boy.
got me, I'm there. And,
I'm converted.
The OG rock star, you know, and yeah, it was just uphill or downhill from there, depending on how you want to look at it. But the seed was planted, and then I think by the age of 8, I heard David Bowie for the first time, and that he just kind of went a little higher than where I had Elvis at that time. So
Yeah.
so Elvis made me want to make music and sing music, and Bowie made me want to be an artist, you know, and Kate Bush made me want to be a magician, and so it continues. It's there's so much you can take and just enjoy. That's already been done.
I love that. Kate Bush made me want to be a magician. That's a strong line for a T-shirt.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll seeing that you as you suggested it, so I might cut you in, because I do need to pay rent after this tour. So
yeah, I think that's a definite strong line for the back of a T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. Kind of brings us nicely round to the single and you're releasing this stuff. How do you go about this? I mean, when everything these days is TikTok this and 20 seconds of this or whatever, it almost I think for some artists feels almost embarrassing to kind of birth their kind of single out into the world, if you know what I mean, because the process seems embarrassing in a way. It's all, I've got a single which is promoting the album. I want you to buy the album. I don't,
yeah. Keep hitting them over the head with, please validate my existence. Listen to my damn work. Yeah, it's the constant evolution and devolution of things. It's we win some, we lose some, and you reach more people on the one side, and you've got to do the silly song and dance on the other side, and so it continues. And it's just, I think it's like a lot of what I do is essentially theater. I'm acting, I'm evoking something, I'm channeling something, and I think you got to kind of approach the business side of it the same way and just be like, well, I just got to go into business mode now and put that hat on, and now I have to be a publicist or a promoter. And yes, I have publicists and promoters that I work with, but it essentially seeps into what you're doing, because they're going to be saying, oh, we want the 30-second clip or the 15-second clip, or it needs to grab them in the first. Yeah, it's I think the creative process remains as pure as I can keep it. I'm not thinking about that when I'm writing the song or arranging the song or whatever. But yes, when you get to the final push as to single edits and that kind of thing, then yes, you have to make a few adjustments if you want to keep spreading the net. Alternatively, you can keep performing to the same people, and that's up to the artist in question.
One thing though is that being artists can be disruptive of that system as well, which is great. I mean, and kind of bringing it full circle to where we started with people like Kate Nash. Yeah, as you say, talking about this is wrong. Yes, people might be confused as to why would I do a OnlyFans or whatever and show my bum or my feet or whatever, but I've got this to pay for, and I lose money on every tour, and I think good for her for doing that. But I have seen in the last year, I have seen some artists being really quite creative with the process, especially around things like social media, and I've been quite delighted by that. I've seen a few people doing anti-content, which I think is a movement I really would love more artists to get involved with. So we've had Bride, for example, that was on here. She did a whole load of things on Instagram where she literally just held a guitar and filmed herself. She didn't do anything. I felt that was great. Or she literally just held a cup of coffee, and I like that. I like the kind of breakdown of that. Polly Pulsimer, who's been on a few times as well, she does this thing. I don't know if you've ever caught it. If you do, it's brilliant. It might be the wrong sort of time for you, but given the fact you never sleep, might be all right.
I'll probably catch it. Yeah.
But she does this thing every morning about 7 o'clock where she literally puts the camera on and she's writing. She's writing another book, and she just writes. She doesn't look at the camera. She doesn't interact with it. She just people watch her writing. Yeah, and I love that. Yeah. I think we need more of that. I think we need more artists just going right. Just you want to watch me? You watch me. I'm
sure. For me, I guess you just have to really like my cat, because you're just going to
That's
see a
the
lot
way.
of Willow
Yep.
in your feed if you follow my solo stuff on my personal page or solo page or whatever. With the Awakening page, we tend to make it a little more specific to the band as a vehicle, and an entity. But I think if they're following the person behind it or one of the people behind it, you can be as personal and as anti-content or as weird and wonderful as you want to be.
Yeah.
I'm just myself, it's just I like dark stuff and I like light stuff too. So, that's what you're going to see. And if you have a very preconceived idea of what this artist or another artist is going to be, you're probably going to be disappointed at some point, because, we are multi-dimensional beings with lots of different interests and ideas and flavors and whatever else. Interesting haircuts. My hair looks very weird today. I do apologize.
Mine's glued into place, so
Well done. Well, I need to do that. Mine looks like it's glued into place. It looked really, I think it was big and fluffy this morning, and I tried to flatten it, and now it's too flat.
this is pure gel. So it's
wonderful. I'll do that next. Next time my hair will be upright, and I'll outdo you, and I'll go full Robert Smith on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did that years ago.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of Robert Smith, he made a big thing about getting ticket prices under control. We were talking about ticket prices earlier on, so a little bit of a callback there to our earlier conversation. I think his $25 or £25 mark that he was pitching for a band of their status is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, as you said,
Absolutely.
I guess the sort of 20 to 40 realm for a show should be acceptable to people. Maybe not if you're playing in a garage with, through a toy amp or something, but if you're in an actual venue, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And yeah. But anyway, back to your hair. Really, well done.
No, thank you. Well, I look forward to more Willow then.
Yes. I'm just going to move aside a little. I mean, you can still see her there.
I think we need a book at some point. I think what you need to do is team up with a decent children's writer, stroke illustrator. Have a Willow book. That would be good. That's always a winner. Then you start bringing in the younger fans.
Much younger, yes.
Much younger, which is always good.
Yeah, got to plan ahead. Yeah,
you do. And I'm surprised if you haven't already. You do need to get some sponsorship from a sort of food company for Willow.
I was going to say, are you saying I need some food because I'm
not for you, for Willow.
Undernourished and gaunt? Yeah, she definitely. She has her favorites. I know exactly who I'll be approaching. I'm not mentioning them because they haven't sponsored me yet. So
I think that would be good though.
You know who has sponsored me is Schecter Guitars. You can see them.
Schecter, that's definitely there. Yeah, that's definitely
there. There's two of them, but the other one that seems to be cut out of you can see it over there.
Yeah. But I think if we could get, maybe on the drum skin, you could have like
Willow's face.
Willow's face, and then the sponsor for the cat food. It'd have to be cat food for life.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's quite a reasonable amount of money when you. What a saving.
Yeah, maybe for Willow and all of her friends. Yeah, it's
all the band's cats.
Oh yeah, exactly, and their friends. Yeah, to really make it worth our while to make that drum. Get
away from the Awakening logo on there and put like Willow's face and
the cat food.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Hopefully, and this is the purpose of this. People listening to people chatting actually helps sales because, ultimately, I think, and this is very much part of the modern age, is if you can actually get people to spend more than 20 seconds listening to some conversation, then it permeates. So, and that's what we aim to do here. We know that it works. We have the metrics to prove it because everybody loves metrics these days.
Oh, we love them.
Like you, I get my Spotify feedback every year. And you go, great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But last year when it came back, this was in the top 20% of video content on Spotify.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
So that's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Considering I don't do anything right.
That's your jam right there. That's your angle.
That's basically it's still believe in this, kids. There's still hard work and perseverance can pay off.
Absolutely, and you can still have your hair well into your post 20s.
Yeah, post 50s if you're
I'll
me.
play that one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Folks, this has been the wonderful Ashton Nyte. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, wherever you are and whatever it is you're doing while you're listening to this, then please do think about sharing it when you get an opportunity. And come and find us at mymusicpodcast.com. Join the community as well. I'm inviting every artist that comes on now to come into the community. It's growing rapidly. We're heading towards 60 people in there already, which is nice. And we're just helping everybody do everything a little bit better, which is marvelous. We'll all be back soon with more of my music. Until then, go out and check out Ashton's music and add it to a playlist and buy a t-shirt and go to a gig if you get an opportunity. Bye for now.